What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Everyday Discipline, where we decode, deconstruct, and reverse engineer self-discipline for you to get whatever it is you want in your life, and for me to tell you a little story to have a lesson sink in, how it's applied, and then ultimately what you need to do about it in order to start building the momentum that you want to build. Discipline is about doing the things that you already know you need to do, even when you don't want to do them, which is exactly what we talk about here on this show. My name is Brent Kokel. I'm your host. As always, thank you for giving up some of your bandwidth on me. The chaos of modern life pulls you in a lot of different directions, and because you're here on this show means something about you, which is that you want something for yourself beyond what you have right now, and you're willing to do something about it, which I really, really appreciate. So the story for the day has to do basically with my former self. So I am now a fairly mild-mannered, respectable citizen. Yeah, but not always. I used to have this thing where my friends would say that I was a line stepper, like specifically with the cops. I've never been much for authoritarianism in any way, shape, or form, but I used to step over the line with cops like all the time. And nothing like terrible. I never got arrested, even though I do wanna, and then I got arrested story. I did actually get tased by the cops once, which I will tell you guys in another episode about. But I used to step over the line. My friends would say that I did it habitually. They called me a habitual line stepper. And one of the things that showed up in me being a habitual line stepper showed up in Berkeley, California, which is where the University of California is, and we used to go to football games there a lot. I went to Arizona State. My dad went to Cal, which is at Berkeley, and we would go to football games. And this particular game, Arizona State was coming into Berkeley to play Cal. And so I had some old friends from college that came in, and we drove down there. It's like a 90-minute drive to drive down there. And my dad's got this season ticket parking, which is in this really good location. I was in my car because we had so many people. I couldn't park in the spot where he had the season ticket parking, so I had to find a different spot. But I don't know Berkeley. So he does, and he had gotten out, he'd parked, and I'm still driving around looking for a spot that'll be somewhat close because I got a bunch of shit in the back of my car that we're gonna use for the tailgate. And I'm parked on this street that isn't a busy street. It's like a side street. My dad's on the sidewalk. I'm in my car, and he's on the right side of the street. So I'm looking through my passenger window, and the passenger window's down, and I'm asking him for directions. Like, where should I go? What should I do? And I feel this person up on my left, on the driver's side, even though that window is up. Like, you know when you feel somebody close to you and you don't even need to hear them or see them, you just know they're there? This is exactly what happened to me. I felt this person on my left, and so I turn away from my dad and I look over, and there is this meter maid. It's a cop-ish, right? I think she works for the police department. It's a meter maid. And I roll down my window because she looks impatient as fuck. And I said, hey, I'm just getting some direction here from my dad, who's on the other side of the car, about where I should go park. And she looks at me with this I don't give a fuck. You're not supposed to be here. It sure looks to me like you're stopped, and this isn't a place where you're supposed to stop. And she says essentially that right afterwards, which is I'm sorry, you can't be here. This is not where you stay. You've got to move on, and you've got to do it immediately. And I'm sitting here going in my mind going fuck you, meter maid. I was getting fully committed to being pissed off at her. So I unleashed a profanity-laced tirade on the meter maid, and the poor meter maid. I know that I was an asshole, but the meter maid, whose job it is to be a meter maid, I can only imagine from a my life is shitty perspective, that's pretty high up there. And so I unleashed all the fury of Old Testament Bible hell on her in terms of a lot of the use of one of my favorite words, which is fuck, as in fuck you. Lots. So anyway, I was fully committed to telling her to fuck off. And then I drove off, and I was mad because, well, she's not going to give me a ticket because I wasn't parked. And then my dumb ass, because I was 24 at the time, I drove around the block thinking oh, I'm just going to come back here and I'm going to get the directions that I need, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to park wherever I needed to park because I didn't get the information from my dad. And by the way, this was a little bit before cell phones were everywhere, so we couldn't really talk back and forth. And I see the meter maid again, but more than that, I now see a motorcycle cop, an actual cop, one with a gun, not just one with a pad that's going to write me a ticket. And the meter maid gets the motorcycle cop to pull me over so she can stop to give me a parking ticket. And yeah, let's just make sure I'm clear on that. I got pulled over to get a parking ticket. Now, as fully committed as I was to telling the meter maid, fuck off, she was equally committed to telling me to fuck off, to where she flagged down another cop. And I can only imagine how that went down in the conversation if they're in the same part of the precinct, though I can't imagine that meter maids and cops would ever like treat each other the same. It feels like kickers on a football team. It's like, get out of here, kicker. But can you see this? Like going like, yeah, man, I pulled over a guy to give him a parking ticket today. It's such a, like, it's an oxymoron. And I'm sure that if I wanted to go down and fight the ticket, I feel like I would have won. But in any event, she was like committed. She was like, no, you fuck me, fuck you. And that's ultimately how this thing went down. So here's the deal, guys. This is the lesson of me getting pulled over to get a parking ticket. Be fully committed and then be prepared for the consequences of this. Now, obviously, in my case, the consequences were I got a parking ticket. I had to pay, I don't know, like $80 or something like that. But I also get an awesome story about how I got pulled over to get a parking ticket. But here's the deal when it comes to everything else in your life. Committing is a scary thing to do. Like fully committing is different than I'm going to commit. Now, here's the difference between those things. My bet is that if we talked about something that you failed at in your life, whether it was a business thing, whether it was a relationship thing, whether it was a health thing, like if we talked about something that you failed at in your life, my bet is that your story is going to be something along the lines of, I didn't really try that hard. I didn't give all of myself to that. I had a bunch of other things going on. I didn't have the time for it. I wasn't there. When you fall short of it, you make excuses that you weren't just trying hard enough if you're not fully committed. And that's why it's scary, because committing fully, like in the way that I'm talking about you committing and going all in, not on the fuck you of a meter maid, though I do highly recommend it so you can have a similar story. But I think when it's fully committed to what you truly want for you, what you want for you in the money that you want to make, in the body that you want to have, in the relationships that you want to have, it's scary because it means that you're making a declaration to yourself that you are putting out your absolute best effort. And when you put out your absolute best effort, let's say you still fall short, it can challenge who you feel like you are, like the very story about yourself that you tell to yourself. And that's why it's so scary to fully commit and why most people never do. But that's also what holds most people back, because they only kind of sort of commit. It's like what Mr. Miyagi told Daniel-san in the first Karate Kid, which he goes, you karate do no? Okay. You karate do yes? Okay. You karate do guess so maybe, just like grape. And he was talking about how you walk left side of the road, okay, walk right side of the road, okay, walk right down the middle of the road, just like grape. This is the deal. He was talking about commitment. Holy shit, I just gave a Mr. Miyagi lesson without even recognizing it. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. In any event, so here's the deal. It's like you fully commit to something and it means that you're giving it your best effort. But most people wind up doing this like walk down the middle of the road, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm gonna try a side hustle, but I'm not gonna leave my main hustle before I get the side hustle dialed in because I don't know if it's gonna work or not. Guess what? It's not gonna fucking work. It's not gonna work because you're not putting in your full effort for it. It takes everything you got to get what you want. We're under this mistaken belief and this mistaken guidance in our society today that it doesn't take that much effort in order to get what you want. I can promise you it takes more effort than you can even think about right now, that you think that it might be. It takes more than that. And I've had a couple episodes on the amount of effort that stuff actually takes over the last couple weeks. You can go back and listen to those, but it's like, it takes way more effort than you think that it's going to for you to put this out. And so that's why it's scary, because I'm fully committing means that now I'm actually doing the work. Talk about consequences, right? Because the lesson is be fully committed and be prepared for the consequences. The consequences are to face the reality of what happens when you do go all in. Facing the reality for this. Which one of the realities could be that you've got to be prepared for the consequences, which means that this is going to work out really, really well, and I'm going to have to up-level my entire life because now I know that I'm better than I thought I was. I've accomplished something. I've got more confidence than I had because I accomplished something. That's one thing that you need to be prepared for. And a lot of times, People aren't really prepared for that. One of the bullshit reasons they'll tell themselves for not going all in is that they're scared of success, which is such a bullshit story. Really, I'm scared that there's going to be too many Rolls Royces in the garage, honey. What are we ever going to do? I'm scared that my body's going to be too good. No, you're not fucking scared of success. It's something else. You're scared of going all in and still not getting what you want. That's a consequence. If it doesn't turn out for you, though, let's just go with that for a second. If it doesn't turn out for you, that's a consequence. There's a consequence to you for that because now you've gone all in. And if it didn't work out, now you've got something about you. And you've got really two choices in that moment right there. One is you can do what most people do, which is get pissed off. Get pissed off because the world didn't treat you the way that it was supposed to. You didn't get what was justly supposed to be given to you. Other people screwed up, like whatever it is you want to be pissed off about. You can be pissed off about yourself, about how you didn't do it again, whatever. Other choice is that you can choose to learn the lesson. You can choose to learn whatever lesson it is. Because when you receive the lesson is typically about the skill that you were missing to get the result that you wanted. And that's really what it is. When you leverage that lesson, though, that helps you the next time. And that's really the difference. If you get pissed off, the experience becomes an anchor. If you get the lesson, it becomes leverage that you wind up using to get further and further and further along in your life than where you sit right now. So you've got to be prepared for the consequences, either positive or negative. But in order to even get there, you've got to fully commit. Enough dancing around the issue. It's not, hey man, I'm going to start a side hustle. It's like, no, I'm going all in on what I think is my side hustle because it's got to be my main hustle because that's the only way that I'm ever going to make it work. I'm not going to go to the gym like 2 days a week and expect results. I'm going to go all in and I'm going to fully commit on that. I'm going to give it my best effort for once. Just for once. That's what I want you to consider in today's episode. What would happen if you actually gave it your best effort for once? My bet is that if we look back at all the things you've done, most of the time you're going to say, I wasn't giving it my best. I could have gotten better. I could have done more. I could have gone harder. And I do this for myself too. I'm not saying this like you guys all suck and I've got all this dialed in. No, far from the truth. I look back at my life and I record these episodes just as much for me as I do for you. Because I think about this and it's like, where is it that I didn't give myself permission to fully commit to something? Where is that? And then you just go attack it. So what I want you to do here as I wrap up this episode is think about the spot where you're only half committed and not all in. And then ask yourself, what would it be like if I just went all in on that, even for a week? My bet is you're going to find something down there. All right, guys, that's it. That's the show for the day. Before you leave, please do me a favor and review this podcast on whatever platform you are on right now. I'd love to see what you guys think about it. And it also helps selfishly for the algorithm. I want this message to get out there to more people. The only way it's going to do that is when they see other people listening to it and reviewing it. So if you have not yet reviewed it, please give it a review today before you leave. And if you have given it a review, thank you. I appreciate that. Regardless of what review, I'm never going to know what number you gave it, but most of you give 5s and I appreciate that. All right, guys, that's it. That's the show for the day, everybody. I'm going to do my job and come back next time. And I want you to do your job and you come back too.